Good morning, dear listeners. Today we start a new episode of the No Age Ontology podcast series, and in this particular series, we speak about the seven laws of reality according to my book, which is a commentary to the Kybalion. So today we introduce the topic of very briefly how to protect oneself from mental influences and unwanted suggestions, which is related to the principle of mental gender, which we discussed in a previous podcast. So we learned how through unscrupulous and unethical use of the principle of mental gender, combining willpower and desire force, which are the two aspects of the mind's potentiality, all phenomena of mental influences, fascinations, suggestions, hypnotism, and manipulation can be achieved to a certain degree. And so one needs to know a very simple method to protect oneself in certain circumstances if one feels under these influences. So in general, people are affected by adverse influences against their will when they believe, and above all they fear, that these influences are effective against them. So fear and belief determines the degree of receptivity to such influences. Nevertheless, this phenomena really exists, but the mental states render themselves negative and receptive, more receptive to the influence directed against them. So the best and foremost method of protection is always to assert one's own individuality as indivisible from the nature of all pervading timeless pure being, which is one's own nature. So one's nature as, or at least feel oneself as the center of the infinite mind potentiality, and assume a fearless attitude because of this knowledge. But then there are also simpler methods. But if one feels under strong mental influences against one's will, or an unaccountable impulse to do something, one should pause for a moment, claim one's individuality, at the same time forming a mental picture of oneself as a center of power in the great ocean of mind potentiality. And one should form also a picture of an aura, energy field charged with one's own individual will, extending about a meter on all sides in an egg-shaped form, repelling all adverse mental suggestions that are being sent to oneself and causing them to fly back to the source. There are also some statements and one can repeat, but this can be found in the book. And just to finish, there is another more practical way of protection, which is to adopt the habit of never acting immediately in response to any appeal in form of authoritative suggestions, assertions, and induced assumptions, until the effect of the emotion induced has worn off to a degree, and then submit the matter to one's reasons and discernment, and then act from their place if appropriate. So in a case of a highly emotional intensity situation, it's better to fence oneself off from a too ready response to any sympathetic appeals or any emotional appeal, especially from people that have some sort of power, or when they're selling a product or something. If you feel as being carried away by some sort of emotional excitement against your will, the best thing is to steady oneself, raise the willpower, and ask yourself whether this mental suggestion serves your purpose or best interest and well-being, and find a state of poise, wait a few minutes and act from there. Or sometimes take a few minutes walk, ponder well about the different choices, and never react emotionally to any appeal. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction. There is much more information in the book, The Seven Laws of Reality, and this is all for today. Thank you for listening.